Hi, Karate Illuminati, this is Noah, and I wanted to take some time to break down this new video from Kevin Lee that he posted to his YouTube channel, where he has a bit of a discussion and back and forth with a Taiji practitioner on how Taiji techniques are applied combatively. And there's a lot of common ground that karate has with Chinese martial arts, Taiji included, and so I thought it would be interesting to look at the material that he's demonstrating and kind of compare it with karate. Now, the first technique that he's going to go over here is very similar to one that's found in the kata Kusanku Sho. And there are lots of different variations in how you can apply this technique and how it can be represented in a solo form. So you're seeing here the Taiji interpretation of this application in solo form. The karate version is slightly different, but we still have a collecting motion this way in Kusanku, where you start from this double arm position, and then you collect, and then you drive. And very often that's shown as a bow defense. Someone tries to hit you with a staff and you take it from them. But the way that I was taught as an arm lock, the way he's demonstrating here, just makes a lot more sense and puts you at a lot less risk of having your bones broken by someone hitting you with a staff. But yeah, he's just collecting and hyperextending the elbow, which works very well and is part of that piece of Kusanku. And in Kusanku, you have a spin afterwards, so in addition to being able to drive them back with it the way he did, you can also spin to try and take them down. Now, what he's going into here is a little more like Pasai, specifically Tawada Pasai and some versions of Matsumura Pasai, and even Kusanku to a degree, that has this hands rising and parting type of situation going on, and that is very frequently done in Neko Ashidachi, or cat stance. When you're in a cat stance, it's specifically telling you that you are pulling weight off your lead foot, which frees it up to kick, just like he's doing here. So you've got this clearing parting that essentially can be a flinch response dealing with a punch, and you get what you get. The cat stance can be used to kick, can be used to step on the foot, and then he's then doing a head manipulation where he's cranking the head, cranking the neck to take them down. That's very similar to this piece of Pasai, rather, where you collect the head and wrench it downward. But it's also, as you can see at the end of that position, a low geran shutouke, a low sword hand, which is also in Pasai and Kusanku.
So there's that second kick.
And then we'll get into the next technique here, which is also found in Karate Kata, but slight variation. So what he's showing here is a hammer fist and a kick. Again, if we look at, say, the Pinan Kata, Pinan Nidan or Heian Shodan, has this hammer fist at the beginning. Usually there is a clearing motion combined with that, and you're in cat stance, which again can be telling you that you have the freedom to kick because you've pulled weight off that foot, and that's exactly what he's doing now, right? So he's got a clearing motion, a strike with a hammer fist, and a kick all in one sequence, very much the way we have it in Pinan Shodan, or Pinan Nidan rather, and it's not that dissimilar from Pinan Yondan, which has a hammer fist out like this as opposed to a dropping hammer fist, but still very similar.
There's a movement that comes in.
All right.
And then up and over. This is a very
see this one.
Trademark.
Yes.
And looking at how he's moving and the posture that he's moving to, this is very similar to a lot of versions of Seisan, right? Which have a hand going down as a hand comes up. Sometimes there's a twist at the end. So very similar here. And just like he's demonstrating here, the range you are at changes the technique. Right? You don't have to change the technique itself, but by getting closer, you can throw people. Or at a mid-range, you can elbow people. At a longer range, you can strike people with the hand. This shows up in karate techniques quite frequently as well, right? Because they're all just motion and structure. And so you can apply those in a wide array of ways. But this one is one I'm fond of, right? This is essentially a wedge or scissors throw that he's demonstrating now, which can be an application for the double arm movement at the end of Naihanchi. It can be seen as an application for Geran Barai. It can be seen as an application for the collecting hands at the beginning of Kusanku, right? Where you pass, do shutos, and then collect and grab.
Nice.
The parry and strike is very similar to also the Haito Uke at the beginning of Naihanchi, and again, Seisan having those motions in it as well.
Do I go, oh my
So
god, now what do I do because he's throwing a
there's
left?
really a lot
Oh, wow.
in common. Now this one is essentially an application again for this type of motion in Kusanku, but depending on how circular you want to make that, it can also be an application for Naihanchi Shodan, where you're wrapping and wrenching the elbow up. And that's also one that changes depending on how close you are and which side you're on. And that's what he's showing here, right? If you're on the other side, because they threw the other punch, you can attack their body differently without really changing the motion of the technique that you're doing. But I find it really interesting to compare how different martial arts that have the same types of techniques represent them in solo form, because it's a really diverse perspective that you can get when you start looking at things that way. Right? The technique he's teaching right here is also one that works just as an application for your chudanuke, right? You're scooping underneath and wrenching the elbow. And even at the beginning of the motion he did, it is essentially that chudanuke motion. So again, there's more in common in martial arts than you would think. What he did there was Naihanchi Sandan's circling motion and Geran Barai motion that follows immediately after. Right? And again, you add strikes wherever you need to add strikes. You slide and adjust your positioning to make the technique as effective and efficient as possible. Right? And right there, we had another double arm motion like Naihanchi into a collecting hands, which is also featured in Naihanchi, Pasai, Kusanku, all over the place, so that he has a head manipulation. And again, trying to take him down by wrenching the neck.
Wow.